West Ham are at war with the stadium in which we play in. I mean, it sounds sensationalistic, it sounds clickbaity, doesn't it? But it's actually, it's pretty much true. And it's a really, really unhealthy situation. What am I talking about? West Ham have just won a legal battle, which means the LLDC or Stadium 185, whoever they are, whoever the arm's length management organisation who are made up by the London Assembly to basically manage the stadium, they've got to give us £5 million. That's the very short version of the story. I'll get in. It's a little bit boring, but when we get to the end, it becomes a little interesting. You're dealing with a row between a tenant and a landlord. Never good. But forget that it's even a football stadium. The very best thing you can do if you've got a tenant and a landlord relationship is get on with your landlord. If you're a landlord, the best thing you can do is get on with your tenant. The last thing you want to do, if we're talking about a house, the last thing you want to do, if you've got a drippy tap or something, or the boiler's on the blink or anything like that, the last thing you want to do is be sending legal letters to your landlord. That's counterproductive. You want to have a good relationship with them. You want to be able to get on the phone and say, pick whatever name you want. Clive, we go with Clive. Clive, the boiler's on the blink, the tap's dripping. No worries, mate. I'll cut round, I'll get it sorted, right? That's what you want. That's how things get easy. If what you did is your first port of call was to go legal on the situation, you're going to build resentment. Because there's a difference between what's legal and what's right and what you should do and what is in your long-term best interests, right? Because I think if you piss someone off over a long period of time, they'll probably look for a loophole to sort you out. And I think if you were going to do it, the moment a landlord could get you out, if they thought you were trouble, if they thought you were more trouble than it's worth, they would try and get you out. Now, the stadium management can't do that. We've got a 99-year lease. But you don't want to be in a situation with someone where you're making it more difficult. As I say, an unproductive relationship is counterproductive by its very nature. And I just feel we are constantly in this battle with the stadium. And you have really two entities in terms of the stadium management and West Ham, who are both operating in the same building. Literally, you walk into, if you've ever been into the main foyer, the main lobby in the stadium, as you go through, before you go through the turnstiles that go up the escalators, you look on the right. That's where the stadium offices are, basically. The people that run the stadium, they're in the office on the right. The office on the left, they're the West Ham ones. There is a foyer, a corridor between them, yet they speak via solicitor. This is really bad. It's really bad. And what it means is whenever you want to get a little thing done, like it might be a leak in the roof's not a little thing if you're the one that's leaking on your seat, but something that should be easily sorted. You want to be able to walk across the forecourt and go and say, look, can we get, how are we going to do this? We're going to get the maintenance sorted out, stuff like that. If a legal letter is going back and forth, it makes that very, very difficult to do so. I think in terms of money, this is very good for West Ham, by the way. The West Ham are going to get a £5 million Brucey bonus. We're going to get that, I guess, in this year's accounts. That's good. With FFP and with PSR, and when everyone's looking to try and squeeze the margins and really get as much out of everything, an extra £5 million is not to be sniffed at, right? And that in itself is good. But at what cost? At what cost? I mean, long term. Because it's just, I don't know. I don't want to guess because you're dealing with legal stuff, and I think guessing would be a bad thing. This is not the first time these two have had each other through the courts and through things like that, right? That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of stuff has happened. In fact, if I got this right, even going back to who should pay for the carpet and stuff like that, this is not good stuff that happens. It's very, very counterproductive. The reason that they have been forced to pay us money is because we paid them too much money, all right? And here's what happened. There was an embarrassment clause. When Golden Sullivan took over West Ham and then decided to move to the Olympic Stadium, because we got the Olympic Stadium cheap, the London Assembly deemed through their arm's length management organisation that what they didn't want to do is see a football club in West Ham, which, as you know, had been taken over for £50 million, suddenly be worth £1 billion. And then West Ham got sold. That'd be very embarrassing to the taxpayer. They wanted to safeguard the taxpayer, but also they wanted to save face as well. They didn't want to be seen to be giving this public asset to a football club, and a football club suddenly makes hundreds of millions of pounds. So they put an embarrassment clause in there, which is if you sell this, basically, and you sell West Ham at a hugely inflated profit, we're going to assume that you've done that because the status of your club has been elevated because you're now in this big, as we went in there, 55 1,000-seater stadium. We're doing the roof, we're doing all this for you. But if you benefit financially, we benefit financially. I don't think that's unreasonable, by the way. I do not think that is unreasonable. Now, what happened was it was ratcheted. So the longer time went on, the less percentage we had to give over in the event of a sale. Now, obviously, the whole club was never sold, but I think it was 27% got sold to Kretinsky. That happened just before the embarrassment clause finished. So we owed the stadium some money, right? Okay, fair enough. We owed the stadium some money. At the point where we had to give them some money, we ended up giving them too much. And I think it turned out being like £3.9 million too much. The stadium argued that was the correct amount. That's what you owed us. We said, no, it's too much. Basically, it went legal. I think an independent adjudicator looked at the figures, looked at the shares that have been sold to Kretinsky, and then basically ruled in our favour. We win. West Ham, there you go. You win. So actually what now has to happen is the LLDC, or whoever they are, the LS185, I think it's even changed now, right? I've probably got the name of them wrong. I think there's a new entity. I think it's the same people working in the same building, but it's got a new name, right? They also had to pay legal costs. So not only the 3.9 million, I think the legal cost was like £1 million or something like that. What you've got to remember is, right, so that's good. That goes into our balance sheet. That looks better. We get our money back. Not only do we get our money back, we probably get it back. And we've already spent it, basically, so it gets credited back into our balance sheet during a year when we could probably very much do with it. What you've got to remember is the stadium is skint. Absolutely skint, right? Now, I guess there are a lot of people who don't have much sympathy for it. Okay, they're skint, but I've often wondered this. Is there going to be, when crunch time comes, is there going to be any goodwill within the London Assembly with Mayor Khan? You know, we understand that Mayor Sadiq Khan, London Mayor Sadiq Khan, has a very strange relationship with Baroness or Lady Brady, whatever, Karen Brady, right? Whichever one it is. That's hearsay, but you've only got to listen to the way they've spoken about each other, and no one ever says anything overly nasty, but I think you can sort of read between the lines that maybe there's a bit of a strange relationship there. I don't feel that Sadiq Khan speaks kindly about the stadium either, about West Ham having. I think he likes the stadium. If he had his way, that deal would never have been done. So the deal was done, obviously, under Boris Johnson when he was mayor. He was pivotal and crucial to it. So I think you've got this situation now where if West Ham ever need it, I think we're heavily reliant that we'll never need a favour. Never need a favour from anyone in the mayor's office, never need a favour from the London Stadium. And that does worry me. That does worry me if we get to this situation where we're constantly sending legal letters for something. We're banking on everything going really, really swimmingly. And I think there's always a big difference between what's right, what is by the rules, what is absolutely right, and what is the decent thing to do, what is the advantageous thing to do. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think that we should have paid too much money. I think they have probably made a genuine mistake there. Or maybe it wasn't we deserve that money back. I'm not saying otherwise. I just think it's a very, very unhealthy situation that's developed because of all the other stuff that's happened with the stadium. And anyone that's been to the stadium, I was going to say this season, last season, it is beginning to fall into disrepair for reasons that I've mentioned on numerous occasions. The top level of the stadium, all that white tubing metalwork that you can see that holds up the upper stand and that holds up the roof, that was never meant to be there. It was meant to be dismantled in basic. Well, it wasn't. 2012 was the Olympics. It was meant to be there for the Olympics, the World Athletics Championships for the year after 2013. Then it's meant to come down, and then just the bit that's dug into the ground, that bowl, the bottom bit, that's the concrete bit. That was meant to stay as a 25-seater stadium. West Ham were offered, by the way, at the start, and it was when the Icelandics were there. We said, do you want to come in with us and help build this and future-proof it? We said, no, we have no interest. We're going to redevelop Upton Park. That's what we were doing at the time. And don't get me wrong, I wish we had redeveloped Upton Park. I really do. But we had our chance, and now we're in this situation where we've got. I don't want to say the stadium's crumbling. That would be unfair. But you can't say anything other than it was a temporary structure. Don't take my word for it. Go and look. Go back and look yourself. It's a temporary structure. It's not meant to be there. Not now. It was never meant to be standing now in 2025. It just absolutely wasn't. And I think you're going to get into a point. It's not going to. The leaks aren't going to fix themselves. It's not going to suddenly get better. It's going to take a lot of money to fix. And so there comes a point where it's going to get run into the ground, and they've run out of money. Basically, in terms of it loses money every single year. And it ranges from anything. I think at its peak it lost £20 million a year. I think its best was it lost £11 million in the year. This keeps coming out of the taxpayers' coffers, and maybe there is no loophole. Maybe there's nothing that can be done about it, and maybe they just have to stick with it and all the rest of it. But I fail to see a situation where we won't need any sort of goodwill at any point. So, I mean, good news. Good news. In the war with the stadium, West Ham v the stadium, which I just say it's a horrendous thing to even say. Good news, we won this battle, right? We have won this battle. The fact there's even a war ongoing, which there absolutely is a major concern. A major, major concern. There is no doubt in my mind that the ultimate people on the in the London Assembly who sit round and ultimately make decisions on these things will not have a lot of goodwill for West Ham. We will be seen as a massive inconvenience who are only there because we have to be. I do believe the club, we are playing hardball with these people. And I guess you have to answer yourself, is hardball a better way to get on with people? 99-year lease, or is it better to get on with people? Yeah, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. Yeah, I just wonder. Yeah, short-term gain here could possibly result in long-term pain.